Thanks so much for sharing your garden with us. And now we're going to be visiting with Judy Barrett from Homegrown, Texas, a wonderful local magazine that tells folks all about gardening in the Lone Star State. It's great to have you back on Central Texas
Good to
Gardener.
be here.
We have a lot to talk about with you. You are a busy lady, writing books, putting out a magazine,
gardening.
Gardening, that takes a little time.
A little, yeah.
It's a good way to spend the time.
Well, I started Homegrown as a paper publication and published it for 12 years. It was the only organic gardening for Texas magazine at that time. During that time, things changed and it became more popular to be an organic gardener.
You led the way, in other words.
I did. So I stopped after 12 years and for 2 years didn't do anything. And then I thought, well, I could do this online and not have to pay the printer, not have to pay the post office. So that's what I'm doing now. It's a monthly. All you have to do is send me an email and I'll let you know when it's ready.
HomegrownTexas.com.
That's it.
And chock full of good advice. And, you know, it is amazing to think how much gardening has changed in the past 15 or 20 years.
Well, it has changed. People's approach has changed and the climate has changed. So our attitudes have changed.
Right. We're all having to adjust. And part of that adjustment, I think, it's necessary. Just you talk about climate change. When you have a 2-year-long devastating drought, you've got to react to that.
Right.
But the other part of it, though, is you're responding to kind of a sense of responsibility and also a longing for, you know, a better way to do the things that you're doing. And I think the organic gardening movement has a lot of that in it.
I think so too. And also, in fact, it's easier. It's cheaper.
I agree with you.
And it's more fun. You don't have to worry about poisoning your friends and pets. And so,
no,
yeah.
You know, that was one of the things, that was a revelation for me about 20 years ago when I started seriously making the transition to organic gardening, was that, wow, this is actually a lot easier than figuring out which of these dangerous chemicals to use when and how do you protect yourself when you're using them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a relief and it was easier.
Yeah.
So,
and cheaper.
Right. So folks can find Homegrown's online.
Online.
But you also have been busy with books.
I have. The first book I did was way back in the 80s, I believe, or early 90s, and it was the Tomatillo book.
And we're all very grateful for you for spreading the gospel of Tomatillo.
Well, you know, at that time, there was not that much information about Tomatillo.
You know, you never saw them in the stores.
No, and if you did, they were real expensive.
Right, right.
So I always grow something weird in every garden, and that year it was tomatillos, and I ended up with 6 million tomatillos. And I couldn't figure out what to do with them. I mean, you can only eat so much salsa.
Right.
So I started investigating the plant and recipes, and the result was the book.
Okay, so tomatillos led the way, but then came, what can I do with my herbs?
Right.
Followed by what makes heirloom plants so great, and recipes from and for the garden.
Right.
So busy lady.
I try to stay busy.
Well,
you know about
gardeners.
idle hands.
Idle hands are dangerous. You know, there's a lot here that we can talk about, and I want to save the discussion for herbs where you started your book writing for last, because you've brought some herbs we're going to talk about.
Right.
But let's skip ahead to the heirloom plants, because this is something that I'm really passionate about. I love heirloom tomatoes. There's just something really special about a lot of those different varieties. Why do you love heirlooms?
Well, there are two sides of it. There's just simply the flavor, the smell, the look of older plants that are just better. And then there's also the sort of social conscience part. It's important to keep all these varieties going because we don't know what they might have to offer.
Right, genetically.
And so, and it's fun. It's fun to have different kinds of things, different looking vegetables.
the
So
tomatoes
there are a lot of
can
good
look
reasons.
can look a little crazy.
They can.
But their flavor is unique, and every time you taste one, it's like it's a revelation because
It is.
there's a wide variety of different possibilities with those tomatoes.
Yeah, and that's true of squash and
Mm-hmm.
cucumbers and all different kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
Flowers.
Sure. Heirloom flowers,
Yeah,
right? No,
yeah.
well, I'm a big believer in that, and certainly love the fact that you were a pioneer in terms of spreading the gospel of the heirloom of vegetable varieties and flower varieties out there.
Yeah.
You're a cook as well. Been busy with
I am
recipes.
a cook. The recipe book includes not only food, but recipes you can make like fertilizers, bug sprays, all kinds of things you can make from what grows in your garden. Not just food.
So there are a lot of natural pesticides and things like that,
Yes.
or ways
Yeah.
at least to chase the critters off. If
That's
nothing
right.
Else.
That's right. You don't need to kill them. You just need to get them out of your yard.
You're a critter herder.
That's right.
Yeah, I heard cats and other things too, so I understand all about critter herding. So that brings us to talking about herbs, and this is a favorite topic for you, I know.
It is. Herbs have so much personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got stories, they've got history, they've got lots of different uses.
Okay, well,
So they're fun.
You've brought some herbs with you, and as you say, every herb has a story.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm looking at, for those who don't know, this object is a mullein stalk, the flower bloom from mullein, which is a common herb.
It is.
Actually, you can find it growing in fields around Texas.
Well, the flowers spread their seeds
Yes,
wherever they go.
Right. So folks have probably encountered this. What do you use mullein for as an herb?
Well, it's an old medicinal herb. It was used for years you can make a tea, and it's good for cough, chest congestion.
Okay.
You can soak the flowers in oil and put them in your ears if you have an earache. You can make a compound to draw out sores with the leaves. There are lots of different things you can do.
Interesting.
I'm told you can make a headache remedy with it, but
All
mean a hangover remedy.
Oh.
But I, of course, don't know about that.
I wouldn't know either. But so mullein, an old favorite, again, a common one, and I just like the leaves on the mullein, I gotta say.
Yeah, they're really
lamb's
velvety.
ear-like. Yeah.
And they were used in the olden days by soldiers who would pick them and stuff them in their shoes as they marched across the countryside, and
Yeah, a
they
little
made them feel better, and
Dr.
they were
Scholl's
comfortable.
inserts in the Civil War.
That's
All
right.
Okay,
That's
very
right.
good. Well, ginger, everybody knows about culinary uses for ginger. This is, I'm assuming
Right.
you use it primarily for culinary purposes
Right.
as well.
Right. Ginger is a very versatile herb. You know, most herbs will do multiple things.
Sure.
They're multitaskers. Ginger is a great medicinal herb. It's great for upset stomachs of every kind.
Yeah.
And I recently talked to a woman who had been through chemotherapy, and she said ginger tea worked better than any prescription drug she had gotten.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, when I had an upset stomach, my mom said ginger ale.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
her
Yeah.
herbal remedy.
Right.
And I love the ginger ale, so there
Right.
you go.
And gingerbread, which we all know as dessert, began as a digestive. It was put on the table after a big meal to make you feel better.
Well, I did not know that.
And it was not the lovely sweet treat we know. It was a slab of bread with some ginger smashed into it.
A little stouter.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Judy, some of the stories have percolated out. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope people will visit you online, as well as
I hope so, too.
peruse the bookstores and online for your wonderful books. So thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure, and good luck to you. Coming up next is our friend Daphne.